Chris Evans is done with Captain America Forever, Peter Parker is in bigger trouble than we thought for Spider-Man 3, and Doctor Strange is wearing the Iron Man suit. That's what we call a quarantine watch party. What's up, Comic Book Nation? BD here to run through some of the biggest reveals of our two-night quarantine watch party event for Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame that was so big, Twitter had to give us our own headline.
Whew. I can do this all day.
First of all, a big possible note of trouble for Peter Parker. According to Stephen McFeely, the Sokovia Accords from Captain America Civil War are still in place in the MCU, and the whole world, thanks to Mysterio, now knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Not only are villains after him and his family, but the law is coming for him as well. Does this mean we're going to see William Hurt as Thaddeus Ross again in Spider-Man 3? Or will he finally become the Red Hulk? Am I theorizing too much to start a video?
Yeah, probably.
Perhaps the most exciting reveal was the first real image of Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange wearing the Iron Man armor. It was apparently cut for being too awesome and too long, really. But until now, we had only ever seen this in concept art. Hashtag release the Doctor Strange wears the Iron Man suit cut. No, never mind. Don't start that hashtag, too many of those. We also don't need the additional footage of Scarlett Johansson making a peanut butter sandwich, which they promise exists, as desperate as we might be for new Black Widow content. If you're one of the many who thought Natasha deserved a proper funeral, the writers sort of explained themselves for really glossing over that whole death. They said that they tried a few different things but couldn't land on one that felt good enough and that didn't take you out of the moment in front of you. Am I the only one who noticed Stephen McFeely chose the word land while talking about Natasha?
I understood that reference.
The lack of funeral made me think she was for sure coming back when everyone came back, but then she didn't, and we got the all-female Avengers shot without the first female Avenger we knew on the big screen, followed by a full funeral for Tony. At least she gets a whole movie now, whenever it finally comes out. Can there be more?
If I survive the shooting of this film, maybe.
Speaking of Scarlet Witch got dusted in Infinity War, but that almost wasn't a thing. Wanda was going to be on a road trip with Rocket in Endgame, but it felt like a spinning wheel for her character. So it was cut, and she died. That old chestnut. There was a draft of the movie which saw Captain America returning the Soul Stone to Red Skull, but it didn't make much sense, so they decided to leave that one open-ended. As awkward as that would have been, it's not as awkward as the idea that did exist of Cap literally being the Soul Stone. Joe Russo revealed that was actually an idea at one point. Speaking of the Soul Stone, there was almost another out-of-body experience for the Hulk in this movie. When he snapped, he was going to go to the Soul World, and there was going to be a conversation between Bruce Banner and the Hulk. Didn't happen. The Russos dropped epic videos like this behind-the-scenes look at Cap and Iron Man shaking hands, finally being friends again for the first time since Civil War, and a look at Chris Evans' last day ever on set as Captain America, and you just have to hear it for yourself. I personally refuse to believe that Chris Evans is never going to play Captain America again, and I know I'm not alone in that thought. Oh, how I would have loved to be a fly on the wall for when they told Evans he was going to pick up that hammer, though. I like to think he reacted the same way theaters did, absolutely losing their minds and covering the people in front of them with popcorn, but it was probably more like most of his facial expressions from Knives Out. If you're wondering what the script looks like for someone like Emma Furman, who stepped in as Cassie Lang, well, it doesn't look like much of a script at all. Hundreds of pages, and she only got this. She revealed that on Twitter. We got awesome behind-the-scenes looks at things like the legend Stan Lee's cameo, which also came shortly before writer Christopher Marcus making an appearance as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, and proof that old man Cap should have been selected by the New England Patriots in the NFL draft. Seriously though, what is Chris Evans going to do when his team doesn't have Tom Brady anymore? For all of us MCU stans who have been on the bandwagon all along, the journey back in time to 2012's The Avengers was epic, but not nearly as epic, certainly, as it would have been to walk onto the recreated set of Stark Tower with all of these people in their recreated costumes. Perhaps one of the coolest photos ever, and I don't think I'm exaggerating. As cool as it was for me to have been aboard the Benatar ship myself, that really happened, peak of my life, it's nowhere near as cool as being on it for Brie Larson's first day ever as Captain Marvel, as we see here. She played a key part in the movie, but had limited screen time because, according to McFeely, the goal for Endgame was always to highlight the original Avengers as we say goodbye. Well, guess what? I'm not ready to say goodbye. I want Iron Man 4 and Cap 4 and Avengers 5. But I also want to see Nova and the Fantastic Four and the X-Men finally show up in the MCU, so I guess I have to embrace change.
But I don't want to see you gone.
those are the biggest highlights of our 2-night quarantine watch party event with the writers, directors, and cast. If you had as much fun as Robert Downey Jr. did watching himself on Instagram Live on Joe Russo's home theater, then you might want to be here for the next one, because we're not done with these quarantine watch party events. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at BrandonDavisPD for my latest updates, and head over to Comicbook.com for the best geek news. I'm BD. I'll see you there. Don't you go anywhere. Every Marvel fan knows to stay till the end. Remember that post-credits scene in Avengers Age of Ultron where Thanos gets an Infinity Gauntlet and then he has to get an Infinity Gauntlet from Eitri? Well, I asked Marcus and McFeely to explain it, and they did. Turns out the Infinity Gauntlet has always been a very mythed item across the MCU, prompting things like the fake in Odin's vault. Thanos put on one of the fakes, realizing he needed the real thing, and he went to Eitri to get it. And I got to hold it too. Best day of my life. See, I told you to follow me on Instagram. This is all a long way to say that they had to kind of retcon some stuff, but it's the best explanation we've gotten so far. And okay, that's the real ending. You can scroll on home. Bye for real. Love you 3000.